Hey guys and gals, got another one for you today. Today we are on the 5th tank of the playoff series of Tier 9 heavy tanks. And we're on to the Wizard 111-1-4. We're on Ghost Town, and it is a Tier 10 match. Now, Wizard 111-1-4, Chinese tanks are interesting to me. They're kind of like a faster version of the Soviet, generally, and then to increase that marginal speed gap that they get, they lose a little bit of armor, so you can't rely on their armor as much as you can the Soviets. And then they get a little bit more alpha damage in general, besides the 110, which is really weird, and the 113, I guess you could argue. And for that trade-off, they have worse gun dispersions or accuracies. So they're a little bit trickier to play than the Soviets, but if you can get them to work for you, mobility and alpha damage can be huge. So if I had to make a comparison, that is how I do it. And there we go, talk about the accuracy. I didn't let that aim all the way, so we weren't able to get the shot into the 432. And then you can see how long it takes to reload. So you get punished if you miss your shots, and these guns are not very accurate, so you can get punished quite a bit, especially with a 75% crew. Now, if you get this thing decked out with a good crew, obviously that's going to help out. Come around the corner, 705 hits us with an HE shell, damages our ammo rack, damages our track, and I didn't want to get hit by his 50 TP friend and lose my head, so I fixed my ammo rack and risked being permatracked out there, but thankfully they didn't want to take any damage, so they didn't pull out any further, even though my gun was too far in the air. Another thing that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chinese generally lose like a degree or two of gun depression just because they have the higher caliber gun, so it's not able to get depressed inside the turret. At least that's how the theory works. But I could just be talking on my butt on that one. Now, I'm not paying too close attention to the minimap in this game. It is 3 to 1, and on this map, to me, the biggest thing is rotation. So you should pay attention to your minimap and see how each team is rotating or where they're located. And if they start to condense themselves into a couple squares, then you can quickly surround them and take them out. And that's really the biggest challenge to this map, to get your team to rotate and recognize, and also not get too compressed to where the opposing team can surround you. So get shot into the lower plate of the 257, and now you can see two of our tanks rotated to the north, our scout rotated to the 9 line, and then in the south they tried to push into a crossfire, so they push into like G6, and then our tanks rotated around to the south in H6. And now that quickly turned from even match to now an 11 versus 3. Or I guess you could say 10 to 3. That's probably a better way to say it. Alright. So at this point, just trying to collect as much damage as I can, or maybe even assist damage. Obviously, in the playoffs, stats are key, so we're trying to get as much stats as we can, and it's not too bad of a game. Got 2,000 damage, 1,400 assisted, no block damage though. So apparently nobody wanted to shoot at the front of my turret because that's where this thing is going to block most of its work, or it can side scrape, but you got to be careful because past the tracks, the side is junk, but there is some space armor right above it. So, not to mention the top of the hull is angled, but once again, it's a little worse than the Soviet counterpart. Alright, but we take 4th place. Not a bad game. Had I been paying closer attention, we probably could have rotated a little bit faster. Picked up a little bit more damage, but we didn't, so we get 4th place. Now we go on to Thieful Ridge, 1944. It's one of my favorite maps in the game. I don't care what tank I'm in. I can play this thing fairly well. And I think the reason I do so well in it is just because you win the southwest choke, and then you can rotate to wherever needed or wherever necessary. So obviously we are southwest corner. Hopefully we can win that choke, and then we will rotate wherever we are needed. Or you can just push up the one line, depending on how big the fight is and how many tanks you've killed, how many tanks you still have, just like any other map. So that part doesn't really get you the high XP, but what does, oh, there's a slight interruption. Would have cut this out if I knew it was there. Probably won't last too long. Alright. Sorry about that. So we continue. Now the reason the XP is so good on big open maps like this is because people don't really know what to do once they win the chokes, and they'll continue to drive forward, and they'll drive into the field, and they'll drive into a bunch of red snipers, and they will end up killing themselves. Which then, obviously, if they're off the map, then that means more damage for you. And if you're just paying attention to the map and you see, okay, my tanks proceeded up the one line, and all 3 of them died, and they only spotted 1 person, but they were all killed by 2 different tank destroyers that weren't even spotted, then chances are there's tank destroyers in the back. So don't approach it in the open. Rather find a different way to move along the map. Alright, so we got Artie there. We take a chance and we trade a ton of our hit points. Unfortunately, we got hit by a 57 heavy and an E4, and now we are ammo racked for the rest of the game. So all that talk about doing well on this map, I've kind of thrown that in the garbage. Hopefully I can salvage a decent game. Now when I look at my team, what a wonderful job of deployment they've done. Everybody on the sniper hill without a spotter. Because it's important to be on a sniper hill when you don't have a spotter. It makes 0 sense. Somebody needs a spot for them. And honestly, if you go spot for a group of tanks like that, as long as you don't drive farther than what they can see, you are going to have a nice, beautiful game. Because generally, anything that you light for them, they're gonna destroy. They should. If they don't, then the game is already lost. However, they don't spot anything, and then they finally decide that they need to move off the sniper hill. But we haven't spotted a ton of tanks over here on the left. Now I do know that there's an E4 and a 57 heavy in the middle of the map, because that's what shot me in the side when I went over to kill Artie. Now I get spotted there, and I'm detected or targeted. And since I'm targeted, that means that there's a tank looking at me, but I can't see who it is. So I'm just gonna get out of this location. Not just thinking that they're about to push the H3 choke, and I only had really 2 other guys with me. And once they push that, it's going to be tough sledding for us. So C100 is going to come try to help the choke out now that our tanks have left or died. Great timing on his part. And then there's a heavy tank in the middle, down in the river. You see how quickly he dies from F5, F6. That's because we still have some tank destroyers on the sniper hill, able to pretty much just wreck anything that drives in the open, much like our tanks do after we win the choke. And that's essentially what happened, right? So they won the choke in H3, and then their tanks didn't know what to do, so they decided to drive forward, and they drove too far and ended up getting killed. So now we are winning 5-4, even though our tank deployment was absolutely horrendous. Alright, so we see that 57 heavy. Once again, the accuracy bites me in the butt. And with this slow reload, not to mention the ammo rack, it takes forever to get shells in. Alright, so we look for a shot in 57 heavy. Now we're going to back up. And I realize that there is a Conqueror here, probably harassing my E100. But I don't really have an ability to get shots into his side because the tanks that are still in the middle. So we take a shot at that 257. It's kind of a risky shot. I mean, the chances of that penning is pretty low. The alternative thing I could do is sneak up and then peek over the ledge and shoot him, but I'm guessing that he still has tanks behind him, the ones that came through the choke there. There was more than just him, so I'm assuming that if I pull over there, I'll probably get shot by one of them. But my E100 takes care of him, so I don't have to worry about him anymore. And we got a nice shot in this 257, and then he decides that he's going to drive behind some cover, so our shot goes away. And the aim time bites us in the butt because we're unable to aim in time for that shot. Alright, so now the 50 TP takes out our E100. And I let my team know that I'm falling back. I'm a one-shot at this point, so if they just come over on me, I am going to die. And I feel like what I can do is set up in the north and at least try to get some vision out for my two tank destroyers that have stayed committed to the sniper hill. And honestly, they've been doing a fairly good job because we are tied 7-7. And when our team went to spot for them, they went directly to the middle, and once again in an open field map with 2 artillery. Going to the middle of the map is probably not your best bet. Alright, so with a bad driver, I obviously don't have vision perks, camo perks, but I do equip binos. So what I want to do is just kind of go to the middle of the map, set up my binos. If anyone fires, I might be able to spot them. Like this tank destroyer, I think I spotted him. He must have shot at somebody. And then Artie's able to get a shot into him, and I pick up the assist damage for that. Now, while I'm driving around, I'm very vulnerable, especially in a heavy tank. Unless you have a decked out crew, I mean, you're still vulnerable, but you're not as vulnerable as you would be with a rookie crew. And binos only help you once you've been stationary and activate. So try to move around in the low ground. Put landscape in between you and where you think the reds are, and generally that just comes with practice of knowing where the reds are going to be, and then also just obviously using the terrain. A lot of maps have I can't think of what the word is. Just be like strips of terrain where you can only drive straight and there's cover on both sides, whatever that term is. Alright, so we're going to set up here, we're going to get the binos up, we're going to be patient, because if anything shoots, chances are we are going to spot it. But I'm also seeing if I get targeted. If I get targeted, now what works better is if you have Sixth Sense. If you have Sixth Sense, then once the bulb goes off, that means that somebody on the map has spotted you on their mini-map. Like, you show up on their mini-map, so then your light bulb goes off. Targeted means not only can they see you, but now they've aimed their gun at you. That's what targeted means. So, and I'm probably preaching to the choir. You guys probably know that stuff. But if you don't, hopefully that helps you out a little bit. And Artie gives me a wonderful shot. Right in the head. T-92. He actually missed, but it's T-92, so the atomic bomb will destroy the tank somehow. Alright, so our Conqueror puts cap pressure on, which is a great idea. Our Heavy moves north, kills Artie. We still have one medium and an artillery. And now if this medium plays it right, he can just spot people up for the artillery. He is against the clock, but it's essentially a 3-minute clock. Now we put a second person on, and now a third, so it's a 40-second clock, and now the medium is spotted. But the medium also spotted the cap, so he's probably hoping that artillery will help him out. We'll see if Artie can get a reset. Sounds like Artie just shot, and I don't know that he got a reset. Now they have made it a 2v3, however, there is only 13 seconds left, so their medium tank has to make a shot here. And it is reset back to 27, but this Conqueror needs to get hit. And I think Artie shot already. Down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And game over. So only post 900, about 1,000 damage, 2,000 assisted. I take 11th. Not a great game, so one of my favorite maps I throw into waste. 3k damage, 3,500 assisted, 300 blocked, 2,000 earned. 0 kills so far, but we are 2-0, so those are all the stats that we got so far for the Wizard 1-4. Jump into game 3. We are on Windstorm. Looks like a tier 10 match. And if you didn't watch the first part of this, I just went through all my tier 9 heavy tanks, bought them back, played 3 games with 75% crews. And then to even the playing field, each tank got a rammer, toolbox, and binos, and then each tank got small fire extinguisher, small med kit, small repair kit, and that was pretty much what I considered an even playing field. Alright, so on Windstorm, I think patience is good here. Patience and rotation. So you kind of want to figure out where the opposing team goes and then what you should do from there. This play right here is definitely not a patient play, but the Wizard 1-4 is fast enough to kind of dig into a location like this and I had a lot of help come south with me. So I figured if I could push it out, even if we get into a big fight, it's going to be a corner match. And as we push forward, we don't really spot anything, and a lot of their tanks were spotted in the middle of the map, which to me is great because they're pushing into a crossfire if we can get our guns up there. So hoping that these guys will react and follow me into the sides and back of the red team. Medium tank recognized it. He's heading back. Get a shot into that roo, take him down. I'm just looking to see what the gun angles are like down here. I generally go to the middle of the map first. Middle or city. I don't go to the north too often anymore, just because I feel like that is a very big standoff. And it's like the only side that once you win the choke, if you push forward, you can push into tank destroyers or heavy snipers, whatever you want to call them. Anybody sitting in the back, not spotted, generally those people will still be alive once you win the choke, and then you have to get them lit before you can return fire. So just piggybacking off the last game, when you win a choke, generally pushing into the open field doesn't work too well. And the 3 tanks that went with us to the city just pushed up the 9 line, and now they've all completely been destroyed. And that's because they have to drive across the field with little to no cover, and they're pretty much driving into a crossfire. So you can see that's kind of what I'm talking about. If you didn't understand it in the last game when I was trying to explain it, you could rewatch this game and see what happened. A lot of people think like it's a waste of time to turn around. I feel like that was somewhat of my attitude back in the day. Like, hey, I made it this far. Do I really want to turn around? Chances are I probably won't see anything anyways. So that, I think, is part of the attitude. Just not having the knowledge to know that you still have a huge impact in the game just by staying alive. Even if you don't do anything for the first 2 minutes because the opposing team didn't send anything to the choke you went to, if you just turn around, there's still a chance that you can help your team out. Choosing to drive forward into their cap across the field is probably not going to work. You're just going to feed the base campers. So we got a shot into that ship barn. And as I'm trying to help these 2 out, the Reds push the north. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place as far as which direction I want to help, because I definitely could just turn around and look at the north and probably get shots in their side. However, my decision to stay and help these guys was because these 2 have been reacting to what's going on the map, whereas if I turn to help the north, I'm just helping my base campers. And to me, my base campers aren't worth as much as the guys that are reacting to the map, if that makes sense. Alright, so now that we've cleaned the middle, now I can turn around and look at the north. Get a shot into the Progetto, and I'm trying to ram him, but my Leopard comes in for the assist, takes him down. Take a shot up the butt, and another shot, and I drove out in front of a Fock. So I'm going to try to get unspotted here, and then just get away from the Fock. This is 4-4. At this point, I'd like to help my tank destroyer that's been base camping, because at this point all the guns are valuable. So the leopard gets over there, takes that guy down. We're having a nice game, even though it's been kind of awkward with some lulls. We are up to 4,300 damage, 67 assist. And we're in a 4v3 scenario. They do have artillery, so as a heavy tank, like I said before in the previous game, I'm vulnerable when driving around. Like, I'm not going to outspot them unless I can sneak up on them. So driving in the open, I'll probably just get spotted, and then in the open, Artie has the best shots. Now, artillery does have some interesting gun angles depending on where he's located. So I just want to be patient and see if my leopard and my scout can spot at least somebody. That way I know that I can make movements along the map in certain locations due to what information they find for me. So my scout pushes north, doesn't spot anything, yet I get targeted. And then once he gets close enough, he spots the leopard PTA. And you can see I would have had to get like super close to that guy to be able to spot him, or get my binos up and then potentially he shoots. But even then, I probably wouldn't spot him. I pretty much had to wait for my scout to get the vision out for me. Like I said, I wanted to wait for. Now, the scout is no longer spotting the PTA, and I am getting targeted every time that I pull around this corner, which is kind of frustrating. In this scenario, 4v3, I do have some hit points to play with, but knowing that there's a Fok lurking, he's got a 3-pack auto loader, I really don't want to get caught out in front of him, as well as, you know, if the leopard and the Fok both hit me, I'm going to die. So I just want to be careful. Now, the scout distracted them, and that gave me time to close the distance, and now I can be a little bit more aggressive. I'm not going to get caught out in the open here. I can use the terrain to my advantage, and we should be golden. Alright, so I thought the leopard was going to come out here, and he thinks twice about it, does not do it. I have no idea what my tank destroyer is doing back there. He obviously doesn't have a mini-map or know how to read it, and thankfully I helped the middle out. Not to say they wouldn't have won it, but you know, I helped them out rather than choosing to help this tank destroyer out that hasn't moved anywhere. So I try to say reloading. I say help, and it's pretty stupid. And my teammates are probably like, "You serious? You need help? You're not doing anything." Alright, so we go for an auto lock on that leopard PTA. We miss that, so we missed quite a few shots. Be interesting to break down the accuracies of all these tanks too. See like how many shots taken, how many shots hit, and how many shots penned. Alright, so the leopard comes all in. He auto locks at me, doesn't get a penetrating shot. But I return fire and get a shot into him. Now my scout is taking really aggressive lines to get them spun around, and I'm trying to take advantage of it. One of the bad things that can happen here is he distracts them, hides in cover, I pull out to shoot one, and then they both turn and shoot me. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. And we do still have our tank destroyer, so I'm trying to wait for him to someday show up to this fight. If I can isolate this leopard PTA, I feel like we can close this game out as long as my scout doesn't die. And not only does he not die, but he comes over and he kills the Fok. And knowing that the leopard can't kill me in one shot, I'm just going to come around the corner and take him down. Get to endgame stats. Not quite an ace. Even though we ace this in the first round, we only get a level 1, 5,000 damage, 300 assisted. Do take first place. I would pick up 4 kills, and that brings us up to 8,000 damage, 3,700 assisted, 300 blocks. So the block damage isn't there this time. 3,600 XP earned, ranked first in this match. 4 kills, and we are now 3-0 going into the 4th game, which is going to be on Cliff. Now, Cliff, every single time I've shown this in the Tier 9 series, I've gone to the EF line. I've even talked about previous games going to the EF line, and it fails. But the cool thing about it, in my opinion, is even though I think I've lost, I'd have to go back and check. I think I've lost every single game on this map so far. My team pretty much just takes the 9 line every single time. And that's the point I try to get out to people, is the 9 line is only important if the middle is secured. If the middle is not secured, then you're just going to either A, drive into a crossfire or get surrounded. Neither is ever recommended by Mustardmav. Alright, so we're going to go into this location. This location is generally very excellent unless there is a square on the map. If there's a square on the map, I can bet you 9 out of 10 times you're going to be target number 1 for the square. There we get a nice shot into the Conqueror. No assist damage from Artie though. We get 1,000 damage ourselves, but our Artie isn't hitting his shots or paying attention. We have a ton of tanks on the 1 line. We have nothing in the middle. And we have 1 tank that is committed to G7, which isn't a terrible position at this point. I mean, at least he's not trying to take the 9 line. He is now really like our only middle defense. And right as I say that, he goes up the 9 line. So we've now lost the middle of the map. It's 0-3. And now they're going to start to push the middle. So we get a shot into this Conqueror. And I didn't mind taking his shot, not realizing that the other tanks were going to pull around the corner. But I finally get some backup. A couple of mices pull up here. Mouses. The mice. Whatever you want to call it. Alright, scout comes by. Try to get a shot into him and we miss. The mouse are going to flex their muscles and take that corner. I figure, okay, there's no way that the Reds are going to push from that side, so let me turn around and help this side. It's 2-3. We don't really have the middle of the map secured. However, we have 2 mouse that are kind of protecting it. So as long as the 9 line just stays put and doesn't push out into the open, we might be able to pull this off even with our crappy deployment. Track this stubby for Artie, because Artie shouldn't have many shots on the map, but this location should be one of them. Track the Patton, really didn't want to track him, just wanted to take him down. And these guys just drive freely into the open because our artillery is doing God knows what. And you can hear I was a little eager on that trigger there. Now they move into the bottom. We're getting shots into that fatherland. Now we're going to push down, try to take this Patton out. Take the Patton out, we lose our driver, we put him back in, and the STB is starting to back away. Now I don't want to pull out too far because then I'll get shot by whoever's in the north, which there's a mouse sitting there. So not only do I take the stubby shell, but then I take the mouse shell as well. And now both mouse have given up our strong position of strength. So I'm just going to be up here since I am somewhat of a hull down heavy. Hopefully I can work this a little bit. And that is not a tank I want to see right now. Somehow I survived that. I mean, obviously he hit my gun since it's broke now. And their mouse comes around the corner and finishes me up. So now it's up to our 2 mouse. And our Artie that hasn't really done much of anything. But he is getting pressured by a medium, so chances are he's pretty much dead. Yeah, he's dead. Now these mice, since they're both like back to back here, they're still exposed to where I died. And in my opinion, they should have just committed to one direction and stayed together. Had they done that, they probably could have used locations of the map to their advantage a little bit better. Whereas splitting up, going back to back with a entry point right in the middle, generally is not the best way to go about it, obviously. There already takes out our mouse, and now we are down to 1. He is blocking a ton of shots, though, which is unfortunate. I feel like we should have still won this game. Oh well, it is what it is. Game 4, we pulled down 3,800 damage, 900 assisted, 400 blocked, 1 kill. Take top dog, and that is going to round it out at 11,000 damage, 500 or 4,600 assist, 700 blocked, 4,400 XP earned. We take first in this match again. We end with 5 kills total, and we go 3-1 in the 4 best games. And now this next game, I was deciding whether I should even show it or if I just clip it off, but I'll show it. On this map, I like to go south in fast tanks, and then once you win the south, then you go back up and defend your base. If you're in a slow heavy tank, I go to city. Alright, but these are the stats. I'm just taking a look at it. It's pretty interesting. The block damage wasn't there, but ton of damage. Good assist. Obviously good XP earned. And the total between all 4 ends up being 21,668 with 75% win percentage out of 4 games. 5 kills isn't anything to, write home to mom about, but it does take let's see, it takes first place twice, so the impact that it has on the game is pretty good, except for that 11th place finish on that crushing win that we had in the first game. Brought our average down to 4.25 is where we ended up. So far all the tanks have ended up in the top 5, but this one is now the lowest with the average impact of 4.25. So definitely can throw down huge numbers. The mobility, the armor, it's all serviceable and you can manage it. But now, just to finish up the game, if you're still watching at this point, I'm trying to get the cap spotted, but unfortunately I can't see that far. Even with my binos up, I can't see that far. I'm getting out spotted. And my team decided to push past the choke and drive into the open field where there's a bunch of red tanks that are shooting them and they can't spot them all. So I let a little aggression out, mainly because I wanted to win 4 games in my wizard. That would have really meant a lot to me. This is one of my favorite tier 9 heavy tanks. That's all I got for you. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.